wanted to see him fold. You know what, Deacon Tennant, my mother asked about you, and I told her, I said, oh, he's having something with his eye. And she said, oh, you mean to tell me he done worked all that time just to fall apart? I said, I'll tell him. I'll tell him. My mother, they know each other. They know each other. And so no one intends that, but we come to church so we can be encouraged to wherever we're going through, we want God to order our steps. We want him to order our steps. He is our chief. He's the head of our lives. He's the Lord. He's more than just our Savior. He's our Lord. And he wants us to prosper even when we go through the valley. If we learn how to wait on him and be patient with him, he's trying to teach us something. And I actually went through something maybe about a month or so ago, and I just thought it was just a simple test. And, thankfully, I was able to pass this test and thought nothing of it. And then just today, I had to share with someone the story of that test. And sometimes we go through stuff, we never know why, but then 3 or 4 months later, we find ourselves encouraging someone who's going through what we had just went through. And because people, they want to know the Bible, but they want to know, is it real to you? And so he says in Psalms 37, verse 23, he says, the steps of a good man, we already talked about this, are ordered by the Lord. And so, again, what's a good man? A good man is those who have been redeemed, those who have those who have a solid relationship with Jesus Christ. And so he says, though he fall, he shall not utterly be cast down. Which is to say that when we go through this ordering process, we're going to have some hurdles. We're going to have some pitfalls. But though he fall, his fall is not final. And his fall does not equal up to failure. He says, because the Lord does what? The Lord upholds him. So what that means is when you give out your testimony, you got to be willing to give the proper credit to the proper person. If you walk around like some, what do they call it, narcissist, you'll say stuff like, I created the best budget in the world. And you'll say stuff like, I did nothing wrong on that call. Because you always point to I. But when you know it was nobody but God, you got to be willing to give the proper credit to the proper person. Who did it? The Lord. He upheld me. He upholds me. I was fallen. I was about to give up. I was about to give out. I was about to give in. But the Lord, he upholded me. Now watch this. He says, with his hand, which means that I have an intimate relationship with God himself. That he cares about me, because in his hand, when you're in his hand, there's a lot of benefits. When you're being ordered by him, there are benefits to this business of being saved. There's benefits. See, I should have been the one that they fired, but they looked over me and allowed me to keep on working. Or the Lord paid, they laid me off, but I just got a job before I got home. And I always love to tell this story. The Sugar Land office, I mean, not the Sugarland office. That's my Sugarland office I'm talking about. The Sugarland was built on Imperial Sugar. And a few years ago, they closed down. The Imperial Sugar closed down. And they interviewed two people. One dude was white and one dude was black. The white guy, he was crying on TV, and he was saying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been working here for 25 years, and I just don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they moved on, and they went to the black guy, and he was almost offended that they asked him. He said, sir, what are you going to be? Well, I've been here 30 years. Well, what are you going to do? He said, what you mean what I'm going to do? He said, on Sunday morning, I'm going to get some clothes on, and I'm going to go to church, and I'm going to keep on trusting in God. And if he could carry me this far, he can carry me, because in his hands, there are benefits. There's peace, joy, long-suffering, love, protection, as long as we are in his hand. Speaks of having a relationship with the Lord. When you're ordering your steps, there's a relationship that he's talking about. And then David, he goes on, he says, yeah, I've been on this road for a long time now. I was a little runt boy when he appointed me to be the king, when the oil ran on me. He says, but you know what? I was young. I remember being young. And when I was young, I did some dumb things. I did some stupid things. I acted out and, tried to walk away from God and try to cover up my sins. I did all of that. I did everything that you're thinking about doing. He said, I was young. He said, but now I'm old. I'm wise now. I'm old now. And when I think back over my life and I think back over my history with following God, there's one thing I've never seen. I've seen my son try to kill me. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen my children try to kill each other. I've seen my son Absalom hung from a tree from his hair. I've seen all of those things. I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly. But one thing I have not seen, I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed, which would be us. Like Justice would be my seed. Logan would be my seed through Justice. And Jonte would be my seed. And Lashmia would be my seed. My seed is even blessed. Yeah. And they are not forsaken. That's why I'd always tell my children, I would trick them when they would be out there doing stuff, and and I try to trick them. I say, y'all know y'all special children, right? You know, God keep an eye on you for me, you know what I mean? And you can do whatever you want to do. One time my daughter was driving, and she was in a 2-lane highway. She was, and so the 2-lane highway, she was going this way, traffic was coming back this way. Well, the car in front of her was driving slow. So she decided that she was going to get in this lane and go around. However, there was traffic coming. So instead of her ducking back over in this lane, she ducked back in this lane. And then when she had to go back 2 lanes to get back to where she was. So now she in my truck though. So when she got home, I asked her, I said, Lashmia, you all right? Everything good? Everything driving good? Oh, yeah, Dad. What happened today? Nothing, Dad. Nothing happened. Oh, you sure you wasn't driving on the wrong side of the road? She said, how you find out? I said, because God is watching over you. And he sent an angel to tell me about it. And so I don't know if that kept them from doing whatever they were doing, but I always let them know, God is watching you. But he says he's been young. Now he's old. He's never seen his righteous forsaken, nor his descendants begging for bread. Here it is. He is what? Merciful. Thank God for mercy. When we follow his steps, when we follow his order, we need mercy. Because guess what? Just because I'm following his steps doesn't necessarily mean Deacon Tennant is following his steps. And me and Deacon Tennant may fall out with each other. We may get a little rough with each other. And we need mercy. Because the gospel can be very offensive. And you're telling people to get right. And they already think they're right. But I'm not telling you to get right based off my personal opinion. The book says get right. The book says you sinned. You know, we talk about sins we can see. Right. That's easy to do. Sins we can see. We talk about that. Homosexuality, oh, it's a big thing. Transgender, oh, that's a big thing. We talk about that. Adultery, fornication, that's good. You know, we talk about that. We love, church folks, we love to talk about that because we can see it and we can judge you right from the jump. You know, the Bible say, you know, we use the Bible as a weapon instead of as a gift. Right? But we never, the person who's talking, they never talk about gossiping on the phone. They never talk about backstabbing. They never talk about gluttony. That's a sin. Did y'all know that? This gluttony? Y'all can tell I'm still working on my sin. And the end result is that, look, when I came here, I was slim and trim. Sister Sanders, she used to put them pork chops on me, boy. So anyway, yeah, I'm still working on my sin, and I'm trying my best, you know, and you know, but the thing about it is, you know, if you drink too much alcohol, what'll happen is it'll shut your kidney down. You smoke too many cigarettes, it's legal. It's legal because it's easy for us to talk about the crackhead, but you smoke too many cigarettes, it'll mess up your lungs, right? If you cuss too much, don't be mad when Justice starts cussing. Because you can't get on him because he got it from you. We need mercy. And he lends, and the descendants are blessed. Here's what he says to us. He says, depart or run, flee from evil and do good. Well, if there's nothing good in me, how do I know what is good? How do I know how to do good if I've never done good? How do I know how to do good? Well, I've got to be willing to humble myself and say, I just don't know. And you've got to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are wise. And if your friends, I've lost friends because I just didn't want to, I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't want to be 65 years old and the only thing I have to show for it is my Social Security check. I didn't want to do that. You know, that's just me saying that. My dad was a good man. Trust me, he worked hard all his life. But I wanted more than that. So what I had to do was surround myself around people who wanted more. Now, have I always done that? No, because I always wanted to be liked too. And in being liked, sometimes you've got to give up some of your morality, your character, and your integrity if you want to be liked, if you want friends or you want people who don't like you to like you. I mean, think about it. You got to give up a lot to get people who don't like you to like you. See, you're the one that walk into the bar and say drinks on the house. They'll be your friend for a while. You're the one that, you know, huh? Yeah, as long as we're drinking. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I had some friends like that. You know, we used to have this saying, drinking to get drunk. That's what we were doing. That was our purpose. We lived in a dry county, so we had to drive out of a county to go get it and then bring it back to school. And that's just me being honest, though. But see, at some point, you got to make a decision. You got to depart from evil. Because evil will chase you like a hound dog chasing a bone. And what they do is, Eric, they don't just roar at you. They come walking at you like this. Now, that's the best I could do, Eric. I mean, but that's how evil paints a beautiful picture. It looks good, but it ain't good for you. My grandma said, everything green ain't grass, and everything that shine ain't gold. You got to be careful, because it will lead you to something that you can't get out of. He says, depart from evil. Come to your senses. Run from it. Depart from evil. And then the commandment is, and do good. And you wonder, why don't Christians always do good? Why do people come here, not just here, but church, and you always find them in the middle of some mess? Because if I'm doing good, you're doing good, we're doing good to each other, it ought to have a good time. It ought to be good. It ought to be good. It ought to be joyful, to whereby I'm convinced you now to come. Because, man, when we came, boy, we had a good time. We had a good time in the Lord. Nobody cares about who gets the credit. We had a good time in the Lord. But nope, we worried about what color the carpet is. We worried about who locked the door. Why wasn't the door locked? What deacon do I need to call? Pastor, he ain't doing this. He ain't doing that. And y'all ain't hired nobody. He says, depart from evil. Am I doing all right? Y'all all right? Depart from evil and do good and dwell forevermore. Here's why. The Lord loves justice. He loves justice when he sees us with the just behavior. What I mean by that is, when I need mercy, I want Deacon Tennant to be merciful to me. But when I see Deacon Tennant slip and fall, I'm not there to help him up. I'm there and I'm about to put my foot on his neck. Because guess what? He know better. But yet just 2 months ago, I was doing the same thing. And I knew better. But he gave me mercy. He gave me something that I didn't deserve. And I'm ready to step on him. But the Lord loves it when we do just behavior. Means that when we do righteous unto one another. Right? How many of us made a mistake ever in life? Okay. How many of us made a mistake just today? Just today. Oh, Bill, think about it. Bill tried to attack me this afternoon when I came to church. But he loves us when we are fair to each. That's what justice is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be. You know, they talking about the Republicans. They have the audacity to talk about, oh, well, we got two-tier justice. Nigga, brother, we always had two-tier justice. What you talking about? It's always been a two-tier justice. Now you know how we've been feeling for the last 300 years. I apologize. I'm trying to get that out of my, but be fair with me. But he loves it when we're fair. Otis is back there smiling. He sorry. He wants us to be fair to each other. He does. The same thing you need is the same thing I need. Same thing I'm willing to give you, you should be willing to give to me. He wants us to be fair. I'm not trying to put y'all to sleep, but I'm just trying to say he wants us to be fair and does not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever. We are kept forever. But watch this. Here's the text is getting ready to turn because you see the word but, right? But the descendants of the wicked, they're going to be cut off. Now, watch what he says in verse number 1. He says, fret not thyself because of evildoers. Now, what he's really saying is, don't get jealous of them. When you see them prospering because of their evil doings, don't get jealous with them. Fret not thyself because of evildoers. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass, and they shall wither as the green herb. We know about wither now because my yard is just, you strike a match in my yard, my whole yard gonna burn up. And all my neighbors' yards gonna burn up with it. And so he's saying that the wicked, they dead. Inside, they're dry. Strike a match, and they will be cut off. He said, the wicked shall be cut off, but the righteous shall inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom. Now, there's a difference between wisdom and my personal, emotional opinion. See, Eric, I'll be a fool. You'd be a fool to listen to me if I say, man, when you get home, I wouldn't put up with that. You need to tell Cassandra she's going to have to shape up or ship out. Sister Brown, I think that's good advice. But that's not wise counsel. That ain't even good advice. Don't even try it. Let me say that. Don't try it. Don't even try it. It's not good. But you know what? People get divorced behind stuff like that. They listen to little Sally. She comes and she said, oh, girl, I wouldn't put up with that. That man, he know how to cook for himself. He know how to clean his own clothes. He know how to clean his own house. Let him do that. And you sitting at the house, and your husband come home and ain't nothing cooked. But guess what? Sally's the one who told you, right? But Sally gonna be the one who sneak around the back. Open up that window and bring, hey, take this. Believe it or not, I had that not happen to me, but I've had some friends that actually happened to. That's why I can talk about it. Listening to the wrong people will get you put out. Got to take wise counsel. We got to speak wisdom to people. Even if I'm emotionally charged by the situation, what is the best thing to say to my friend to help him or her get out of what they're in? I have a friend who's having some mental problems. So what do I tell him? I tell him to trust in the Lord, but also go to counseling. You need counseling. Well, in the black community, I don't care what the black community say. My daddy told me real men don't cry. But I cry. When I'm sad, I cry. When I'm hurt, I cry. And so I'm in touch with who I am. It don't make me less of a man. Don't get that mixed up, but don't get it twisted. But we ought to speak righteous to people. We ought to be the ones encouraging them, not discouraging them. We don't want to have a coup in the church. And that's what happens. That's what happens. They call them cliques. We got a click over here, click over there, click in the back, click in the back, click in the pulpit, click, 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 click. And as long as Deacon Tennant, what does he say? That's what we're going to go with. And then Eric is saying, well, whatever I say, my group going to go with me. And the next thing you know, they fighting over something that's not eternal. Sir? Little churches inside the building. And a lot of times the pastors, they preach in the parking lot and in the fellowship hall. And they'll send little Johnny up to tell you because they ain't brave enough to tell you themselves. So we ought to speak, we ought to encourage one another. Here's what he says. If you're being ordered by the Lord, his tongue talks of justice. You see that? It's not talk of wickedness and evil and how can I get you back? You know what? My friend at work, you guys don't know her. I've known her for 20 plus years. She's one of my employees. Her mother is getting ready to die. Honestly, her mother is getting ready to die. She has, Latonica, you know her, Daphne. Her mom's getting ready to die. And so she went to the hospital. She'd been sick. She had cancer and all this other kind of stuff. So I've gone, prayed for them, stuff like that. And so her mom fell on Saturday, but now it has turned into a beast to where now the cancer now was all over her head and it's run down her body, right? And so yesterday, me and Daphne had a misunderstanding. You got to understand Daphne, she's like a little feist dog. She just bark. She Latonica. Am I telling the truth? She bark all the time. Just bark. You know what I mean? She ain't nothing but this big. And she just. And so I had to go somewhere to go. Normally I don't leave for lunch to leave the building. So I had to leave the building for lunch. And I didn't know she was going to her mom's hospital room so she could check out some things that's going on over there. So she texted me and said, "Where are you?" Now I'm the boss, but where are you? Why didn't you tell me you was leaving? You knew what I got this little stuff going on, da-da-da. Now I said, well, I've been sitting here for 5 hours. I do take lunch, and you've not said anything about what's going on. The hell I didn't. Well, yes, no, the hell you didn't. You know what I mean? So now we in this back and forth. This was yesterday. Now, I love Daphne. She loved me. We've been knowing each other for 25 plus years, right? So we come today, this morning, I'm saying to myself, if she don't talk to me, I ain't going to talk to her. Ain't got nothing to do with God now, because I should have been the one. So she comes in my office, and I said, Daphne, before you get started, I apologize. It's your mother. I understand. I apologize. And that broke the ice, and we just started talking. And we started talking a long time, crying, and everything like that. Because she's a single child. She's an only child, and she is getting ready to lose her mom. The doctors have given her 2 months. Daphne says 2 weeks. So we don't know. So we're praying for her. But my thought was, I'm going to get you before you get me. But the text says, don't let your tongue speak evil. Let your tongue speak justice. Because all that she's going through, why do I have to be so big and bad to where I have to be right? And I said, Daphne, before you start anything, I apologize. Now, before she opened that door, I wasn't going to say that. But when you listen to the Lord, what's the purpose of having that? Right. What's the purpose of having personal Bible study on the job if you're not going to use the information that you're gaining? I mean, what's the purpose of reading the Bible? What's the purpose of coming to church if you never apply that to your life? What's the purpose of that? It's nothing. You're just a tingling cymbal. That's all you are. You're just making a lot of noise. You're an empty wagon. That's all you're doing. But when you apply it, you got to humble yourself. I don't want to, but I had to. Daphne, I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have said what I said. I was out. I should have let y'all know that I was leaving. That kind of thing. But it didn't happen. But we good. And we save. The relationship is mended. Saves a lot of trouble. The law of God is in his heart. None of his steps shall slide. So we love the Lord because we love his word. You cannot love God and not love to read his word. If you're looking for guidance, don't look for me to give it to you on the pulpit on Sunday. That's 30 to 35 minutes of instructions. You should be reading your Bible at least 30 minutes a day. If you can't do it 30 minutes a day, I challenge a brother today, 10 minutes a day. You're sitting in this garage, 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes a day. I promise you, if you read 10 minutes, that 10 will turn into 15. And that 15 will turn into 30. You can't get all the instructions apparently we can't get all the instructions we need from the pulpit. Because some of the stuff that's coming from this pulpit is junk. Not this pulpit, but other pulpits. I was Deacon Tennant, like financially, we need people to give to the church. That's how we pay our bills. That's through tithes and offering. That's been set up by God. He set that up, not us. And that when you give, you ought to give cheerfully, okay? So, I don't know if you saw this, but a preacher said that apparently he was trying to get his church to tithe. I'm not sure. But he said that God is tithing. And when he gave Jesus as the tithe. He gave Jesus as the tithe. And when he said it, I said, wait a minute, what? He said he gave Jesus as the tithe. So I said, wait, because this dude apparently doesn't know what tithe is. Now, to whoever he was talking to, it sounded good. You know why I know that? Because you can hear him in the background saying, amen. Say it, brother preacher. But he said he gives 10%. When he gave Jesus, that was God giving his tithe to man. So he doesn't know what tithe is, because that means what he was really saying. If you think about this theology, if you think about it biblically, and if you think about it with common sense, you will know that this is illogical thinking. Because the tithe is 10% of what you have, right? It could have been your lambs, goats, chickens, eggs, anything. It's a tenth. We accounted a dime to every dollar. But when you think about that, if you don't pay attention, what he really said was, is that God had 10 sons. And out of all the 10 sons, he gave Jesus as the tithe. No. Sure. You heard him say it? No, I didn't hear it. Okay. Well, he canceled out what Jesus died to save, pay the penalty for sin. So he went all the way around world around. He took John 3:16 and ripped it right out of the Bible. That God so loved the world that he gave his only. He took John 3:16 and just said, and spit on it and said, boop, and threw it away. But if you're not careful, they'll say it and you'll be like, amen, brother preacher. I'll be like, Lisa, come on, let's go. Yeah, they got all these little slogans, but it's not biblical. And that's why our world or our community and our churches are in the crisis that they're in now, because I'm not trying to shout y'all. I don't care about how high you shout. I want us to walk straight. I want to back up what I say with the word. And it has to be. And we was just discussing that. It's crazy about it, and I understand why, people don't come to church. I understand that. I understand why. Because they got some crazy, like the guy with the Movado watch deal. I'm still waiting on my Movado watch. I don't even know how much it costs, but I'm waiting on it. You know the difference between a Rolex and a Timex? That's true. Yep, that's true. Rolex don't tick. You're right. But you know the real difference? The price. Because if you look at a Rolex and a Timex at the same time, they'll say, oh, it's $750. My Rolex going to say $750. My Timex is going to say it's $750. So I don't think preachers should ask their church to get them a $10,000, I don't know how much a Movado watch costs, or whatever it is, a $5,000 watch, just so I can wear a $5,000 watch, and we have children right outside the church going to hell. They don't have book supplies. They don't have computers. They don't have the ability to keep up with other kids because they don't have that. They don't have the internet. They don't have the Wi-Fi. And you want me to walk around with a $5,000 watch on that tells the same time as my, $20 watch? I'm cheap. I want y'all to know. I'm cheap. And so these pants were given to me, and this shirt is $13.99. Bought it at the store down the street on Main that used to be down there. So, yeah, the fire sale. That's right. I do too. I do too. These pants were given to me, $13.95. Watch was given to me by my children a couple years ago. I'm cool with it. I'm cool. I do not want to put that burden on my church. It's just not right. So I'm going to leave you with this. Here's what Moses had died in Joshua 1. Moses had died. And so the Lord tells Joshua, gather the people up. We're getting ready to march you into the promised land. And mind you, in the promised land, there are giants in the promised land. There's adversaries, enemies are in the promised land. So he tells him, he says, be strong, be courageous. He says that in verse 6 and verse 7, I believe. Yep, in verse 7. He says, be strong, be courageous. He says it again, be strong, be courageous. And then in verse 9, he kind of changes the language a little bit. He says, for I have commanded you, which means I've ordered you. I have told you. I have authority over you. This is like if Justice walked in here right now, now I said, Justice, go ahead and sit down right there. You know what he would do? He would sit down right there because he knows I still have authority over him. Even though he's my son, even though he's grown, I am the authority in his life. So God is our authority. Doesn't matter how old you get. Verse 9, he changes it up. He says, I commanded you. I command you to do what? Be strong. Be courageous. He tells them 4 things. He says, don't be frightened. Because when you take a step into the promised land, you're going to have to fight for it. But guess what? I've already fought for it. He's already given us the promise, but he's already supplied our needs. He said, don't be frightened. And he said, don't be discouraged. He said, don't be dismayed. Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. And then he gives this. He says, for the Lord is always with you. Wherever we go, whatever orders, sometimes when he orders us, it cuts against the grain of our natural tendencies. Sometimes we have traditions and we make them the Bible. And what he'll do is he'll come along and he'll destroy the tradition, but he'll leave it up to you to do it. And we've got to band together, not to destroy traditions, but to destroy the devil. We got to walk into the promised land. Our methods have got to change because the community has changed. Our parents used to raise our children. Now our children are raising our parents. You got HISD just acting a plumb fool. And one of my good friends who's an emergency, he runs their psych ward for bad behavior children. He said it's going to be a mess. I talked to him the other night. He said it's not going to be what people think it's going to be. They went from a department of 70 people who were helping with these kids who had bad behavior. Now they're down to 8. He said we were overwhelmed at 70, but now we only have 8 all throughout the district. He said, I don't even know if I'm going to have a job next year because they have set us up to fail. So you got to ask yourself, where does the church fall in line with this? What can we do? Well, first of all, we got to get our kids coming back to church. Because if they're not here, there's nothing we can do. But I think we should have tutorials for those who are struggling. I think we should be big brother, big sister. I think we should be able to help them where we can. But we got to be willing to do it. We got to follow the orders that God has given us. And I just told Brendan, our new preacher, I said, in order to follow Christ, you got to be willing to die. Because even though you do good, they will talk about you. They will scandalize your name. They will try to hurt you instead of help you. Yeah. So anyway, that's our Bible study for tonight. Thank God for everyone who came out. Let us continue to pray for the church. We do have a trip coming up on the 26th, a Saturday, for our, yes, ma'am, for our kids. Oh, for our kids. And so if you know any kids that are in the church, make sure they sign up for our main event trip. And looking forward to going with them, having a good time with the kids. They need to know that we are there for them because this school year at HISD is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So God bless each and every one of us. Let's stand and be dismissed. Any questions, any concerns, any comments? Everybody okay? All right, thank God Deacon Tennant is back. You know, he got that eye problem. And, you know, I tell anybody, once you let the doctor work on you, that's a walking grace right there. You never know. So thank God he's recovering. Reverend Vian, you want to dismiss us in prayer?